Just in terms of England, so you made your debut back in 2007 against Scotland, is that right?
Yep, that's correct. I was thrown into the ring of fire as such at half time against the old rivalry.
And if my maths is correct, about roughly 13 years now that you've been involved in the England setup, which is, you look for any player, is a phenomenal amount of time. So I think it would be really interesting just to have a little bit of an explore what that journey looked like. Obviously, you played through the youth levels, through the youth age groups, before you then went into the senior squad. You've been involved in 3 World Cups and 1 European Championships. So can you give us a bit of an insight into what the journey was like, some of the best memories, I suppose, or the best moments from that period of time?
Yeah, of course. So like I said, ultimately the best moment was making my debut at 18. I thought, right then, here we go, made it. Like, I'm 18 years old. I'm in the first team. At the time, Hope Powell was the manager. I just thought, like, what can go wrong from here? I've come on, like, kept a clean sheet. We were winning 1-0, so we were just clinging on. Like, Scotland were coming at us pretty strong. I remember making a really good save at the end. Julie Fleeton free kick, who at the time is, well, probably still is, a Scotland legend, and remember saving it out the top corner. And then Hope at the end of the game, I was like, she didn't give much away, Hope, so I was like, surely she's going to give us like some really good feedback. And she was just like, just give me the nod, as if like that was the approval. Like,
the nod of approval.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay, cool. Like, but at the time, 18 years old, I was like, God, this is brilliant. So after playing well against Scotland, I got called into the 2007 World Cup, which was awesome because it was at China. So the best thing about it was that me and Jill got selected. So Jill obviously is one of our best friends. I've shared this journey with her for a long time. So we got to go to China, which we thought was absolutely amazing because a pair of us had, like, I think she had a couple of caps, I had 1 cap, and all of a sudden we're on this plane journey going to a World Cup in the most like amazing place. We went and stayed in Macau, which is like an island just off of China, in this unbelievable hotel. We went to like a grand opening of like a massive Venetian like casino, and we were playing golf like into the sea. So we were like, this is the most amazing thing ever, like roommates, whatever. So anyway, like next minute you're in, like, the stadiums were packed, like 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people all the time. Like, it was obviously Kelly scored her iconic goal where she kisses the boot in that one as well. And me and Jill are just like, this is great. But all of a sudden, like, we went from having like great fun to like Jill going from not really playing a lot to having to play because someone got injured. And then there was a suspension, and all of a sudden Jill was playing, like 19 years old, like in a World Cup. And she was just like, it was just madness.
Wasn't expecting it.
No, wasn't expecting it. And obviously I was like not expecting to play either, and I didn't. But at the same time, like, you're just there with your best mate, like she's just like living her dream and like can't believe it. But at the same time, it's like, this is brilliant. Like, it was fantastic, and I shared it with like some amazing players, like say got to play and train alongside Kelly Smith, Rachel Yankee, Rachel Brown, who was number 1 at the time. Birgit Prince for Germany was playing, like all this kind of stuff. Like, it's unbelievable, like what's going on. So yeah, and then got back and I thought, oh, like, pretty, not that I've made it, but you think, oh, I'm gonna have a good run here.
Yeah.
And then just like it never really, I just start. I dished up and down. I missed the Euros after that, and then missed the World Cup, and then missed another Euros. And I was just thinking like, oh, this is just like the worst thing ever. We had a change in manager, and Mark came in and kind of gave me a chance, but wasn't really keen. Like, so he didn't take me to tournament, and I just had to work hard. Like, I just thought, like, I can't affect what people. I can't affect what they think of me now, but I can affect what they're going to think in the future. So I just kind of knuckle down, work hard, ask questions, and went on camps and kind of had to ask, what am I going to do? What do I have to do to get in the squad to be playing, or to even get selected at some points, because I wasn't even getting a look in. Yeah. And it was just through conversations like that. It was just absolute perseverance, I guess, that has got me to this point. And I ended up going to the World Cup, where we won the bronze medal. which was unbelievable experience. Again, another amazing country, and an amazing journey that we all went on collectively, achieving something that us as an England team we'd never achieved before. We took the nation on a journey and really got them to probably buy into the Lionesses were born. I think that was the year we kind of hashtag Lionesses as well, and that became a thing, which we are now known as globally, I guess. It was fantastic. And then it's just going to be interesting to see how, it was interesting to see how, again, I went on from there, because then I went to the Euros with high hopes, and again, like, you're playing well at clubs, you're thinking, am I going to get a look in? And again, club performance doesn't always reflect how things go down internationally, which seems weird, but unless you're in it, it's hard to explain to people that. And it's hard to also hear that as well. So you're getting lots of messages being like, Carly Telford should be playing, Carly Telford should be getting selected, she's playing well for club, blah, blah. And then obviously the vice versa happens sometimes when you start playing for your country, you're not maybe playing at club. But again, it's about the journey you're going on as a player, as a person, which can really hold its weight, I guess, internationally. And it comes down to lots of other factors, not just club, which people find very hard to understand. But that's how managers and I guess management teams make their decisions. So sometimes when I feel like I've been playing my best at club, I haven't played at international level. And then sometimes when I haven't played as much as club, I've been playing at international level, which is again really strange. But I'd like to think that all those experiences of sitting on benches, having to be the third choice keeper, being second choice keeper, having to do the hard sessions, the slog that maybe you don't see as an outsider. So when you're in a tournament and you're third choice or second choice, like, you play a game on the evening or the afternoon, and the next day you're out for the blowout, you're supporting the players, you are staying extra at the end of sessions to take all the extra shooting practices that forwards want to do, or the defenders want to do, and all that adds up. And it can be long when you're there for 6 weeks. If you're in a full tournament situation, that adds up to a lot of physicality, a lot of psychological kind of resilience you build up. And then when you do get the opportunity to play, like I did obviously in the recent World Cup, all of it just, not you forget, but it all just makes it so worthwhile. And I just remember being stood in the tunnel like before the game, just like the happiest human, like because I'd finally done it. After waiting all those years to get onto the pitch as an international footballer in an international tournament, in the biggest tournament in your in a footballer's life, to go to a World Cup, you're finally stood there thinking, yes, it was all worthwhile. And I guess if I'd threw my toys out the pram, if I'd been a bad person, if all those things, like, I don't know whether I probably would have made it to that point. I probably would have potentially still been playing club football, but I don't think I would have been anywhere near international football. And I remember lots of people messaging me afterwards being like, it's been an honor to kind of watch your career and know that you've never given up and it's all worthwhile. Because
I think what you've obviously spoken about being in a squad and not playing, and I think from the outside it's easy to be forgotten, and actually we know, having been in it, that person, that player that has to support is as valuable and as important as the person on the pitch at the time. How did you get your head around? Because obviously there would have been disappointment there over the years. How did you get your head around to accept that, okay, I'm disappointed, but I've got a job, I've got a role here to do, and I need to make sure I do it to the best of my ability? Because one, I need to do my job to support the other goalkeepers, but also two, I might be needed at any point.
I think that it's all about, I think some of the disappointments allow you to enjoy kind of the things that maybe should disappoint you later, which sounds a bit weird, but the fact that I'd been left completely out of teams and out of tournaments, and having to watch some of my best friends and watch my team go to a tournament and do well like they did and won silver in the Euros and stuff like that hurts so much. And I just thought, I never want to have that feeling again. So I do not care if I am third choice, second choice, first choice. I just want to be there with my team. Of course I want to be playing. Like, it is the hardest thing to sit down and someone say, like, you're not going to play this one, you're going to have to sit this one out, whatever it is. But I'd far rather have that conversation and be on that plane than sat at home. And I think for me, that's always the thing. I think with goalkeeping, it's such a unique position. And everyone speaks about the goalkeeper union and all that, but it is such a special position to be in, because there's only one person can be on that pitch as a substitute, and an outfield substitute. There's always a chance. Maybe as a defender a little bit less, but usually if you're a midfielder forward, there's a really good chance of you going on at some point. With goalkeepers, like if you get picked for a tournament, you're not number one. You're kind of thinking, look, I know I'm just gonna have to get in the mindset of helping out and being ready. And again, that's another thing, is just like, it's being ready, because you don't know if you are, like I said earlier, my worst scenario would be that I just tossed it off and I just thought, oh well, I'm just here for the crack, I'm having a holiday, I'll just make sure I'm just making, like, doing my bit. And then all of a sudden you're acquired, or you're called upon, and you're not ready because you've just been having a holiday or whatever, and you just thought you weren't going to play. That would be like my worst nightmare. So for me, it was just about going away and it's using it as an opportunity. Like, how can I be better? How can I be a good person in this scenario? And I tell you what, winning that bronze medal, like, there's not one person in that team felt like they won that bronze medal more than the other person. So when it comes to like winning things, like, it's not about the 11 people, it's about the whole collective. And that's what's special about team sports, is that whole collective group, from the doctor to the goalkeeper to the defender to the goalkeeping coach to the video analysis, everybody plays their part. And in order to be successful, I think that everyone has to feel valued, as valued as the 11 players that stay on the pitch, to the people in the stands, the people that cook the food. Everyone around that environment has to feel like they're part of it. And I feel that the conversations, I think, in being in teams where that hasn't happened, and helping influence that in teams where it has happened and we've been successful, you see the value of it. So I think that also, like, I've been part of teams where it hasn't felt that, and you're not forgotten about, but you kind of are. You're just another number. And it hurts the group. It hurts kind of the goalkeeping union, and therefore, if the goalkeeper union doesn't function, like, we all know as goalkeepers, like, it's not just the number one and the goalkeeping coach who works. Like, you need everyone to be functioning in that group for your sessions, whether they're volleying, serving, receiving. Like, everyone has to be in a good place to make those sessions work effectively, so that everybody gets work out of it. And if someone's not pulling their weight, or someone doesn't feel valued in the group, and the session becomes weighted because of it, it affects everyone. So then it affects them, it affects you, and it affects the team.
The mood.
It affects the team as well. So like, if you're going to be a part, like, it's fair, if you want to be really selfish, then go and do an individual sport. But in a team sport, there's a part of you have to give up, and it might be now, but later on it will help. Or you might be that person that everyone's given everything to now, but at some point in your career, you're going to be required to give a little bit more of yourself away in order for the bigger results. And for me, that probably paid off enough that I've stuck around long enough to be able to warrant my kind of time and goal at the World Cup, and hopefully in future. So I'd like to think that it does pay off. But again, it's just about getting your head down, not listening to the outside people, and listening to the people that matter the most.
For sure. And I think there's the pictures there on the screen with the goalkeeping group that we had at the World Cup, in a moment of chilling out, I think in Deauville in France. And we did have a good collective, I suppose, bond in terms of where we wanted to get to and how we was going to help each other get there. And we probably had our moments of pressure, we had our moments of fun, we had our moments of support, and had moments of being upset. But what collectively had probably built up over the lead into that tournament enabled everyone to do their role. And I think you have to say that everyone did carry out their role as they needed to. And there's a lovely picture there of you celebrating on the sideline in the first game against Scotland. I believe it's when Keats scores, and everyone's jumping up on the sideline support. And that's just a great picture in terms of what it means to everyone and how everyone had each other's backs.
Hugely. I think that as well, that you forget that when we meet up as internationals, like, everyone's usually the best at their clubs in what they do. So all of a sudden you're asking 4 people to come together, or 3 people to come together, and 3 of those people to sit and take a back seat, which they're not used to doing, because at club, like, they're used to playing all the time, or whatever it is, or training at the high, and all of a sudden you're being asked to, well, actually someone else is going to play the part that you usually play. So it's a complete mental kind of switch you have to have. But again, it's because you do it for the benefit of everyone that's there, and you see those pictures, and that is why. Because we all want each other to do well. And in order to be a successful team, you have to, like, my belief is you have to have that. You can't have people pulling one way and people pulling another way. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think that what our group, and what's nice is that you get to work on that, and it's not something that just happens. It's not just everyone just goes, oh well, like that's cool, we'll all just become really good friends and that's how it works. Like there's a process to it. There are, like, we've had it before where there's been highs and lows, and moments where we've been like, this isn't working, we need to change, we need to have a discussion, we need to talk as a group, we need to express how we feel when we're training together, like what's everyone feeling in this moment, like did we inform each other, have we spoke to each other in the right way. And there's lots of different things that goes on, especially at international level, that lots of people don't see, but it has to be done if you want that group to be harmonious, and if we want whoever it does stand between the sticks, ultimately in those 90 minutes, is able to perform to their highest ability, and we all have a part to play in that. And whether it was KB or me in goal in that tournament, I know for a fact that like Elle and Mary were one of the first people to come up after a game and like congratulate and feel happy, whether we kept a clean sheet or we made saves or whatever it was we did in the game. They would just sort of pick us off the floor when we lost in the semi-final. Was everyone was there supporting each other and wants each other to do kind of the best they can.
Absolutely. And there's again, just looking along the pictures, that there's the you in the lineup next to Steph and Jill, in your obviously your first game against Argentina, and that must have been a really proud moment. Of you obviously spoke about in the tunnel and walking out, and again another moment going back where I think from the sideline looking on, you just had that composure that you was going to go into the game and do what you always do. And then obviously the next picture along is you after the semi-final against the USA in Lyon. So how did that game feel in the approach? How did it feel for you going into arguably one of the biggest games of your life?
Well, obviously it was not a shock, but I wasn't meant to be playing in that game originally. It was meant to be KB. Obviously she picked up an injury, but again it comes down to mindset. There's a part of you, obviously, because she was carrying a small injury, was like, I might end up having to play. But at the same time, you're like, but we need to get KB ready. So we're doing all we can as a group to make sure. And then she gets injured, and it's kind of like, well, that's okay. That's cool. Like, I'm doing everything I usually do. I feel good. And I remember like Phil coming over being like, are you ready? And I was just like, mate, I've waited 13 years for this. Like, I'm ready.
I remember the conversation. Yeah, I remember.
And I was just like, I'm ready. And I was just like, I just felt like, and it's weird because like no one, Jill, we didn't get back to the room. Jill was like, mate, are you okay? Like, God, I did nothing. She was just like, we didn't even speak about it. It was just like the team were ready. Everyone was ready. It was just kind of like, it is what it is. Like I've worked alongside most of the girls now for a big part of my career. And I think it was just what it, KB had a fantastic tournament. So yes, as part of you being like, right, I've got to live up to that and we've got to perform. But we knew collectively as a squad, in order to beat the USA, we were going to have to perform very, very well. And unfortunately for the first 20 minutes, we were like a bit like rabbits in headlights, and we didn't execute what we'd spoken about as a group. And therefore we were punished, made a couple of good saves, but again, like, they're relentless in what they do, and they kept coming and they got their goals. And I think if we'd played how we played probably after that first 20, the way we did, if we'd managed to play for 90 minutes the way we did after that first 20, I think it could have been a different story. But that's how it is, and that's football, and that's the reason they're the best in the world, because they're able to do what they do. But again, I didn't feel any different in that game as to what I did against Argentina, even though it was a semi-final of a World Cup. Like, I just knew that I was ready to deal with whatever came at me, and I was going to do the best I could for my teammates, for my family, and unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. So then you kind of have to pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and go again for the bronze medal match. But yeah, it was phenomenal to be part of, and know that the hardest thing is that you see you're so close to that kind of overcoming that hurdle. That's the second time we've been kind of knocked out of a semi-final, and it hurts just as much, if not more, especially because we didn't go on to collect a bronze medal. But that's football, and the best teams, the best players will punish you if you're not on it, and that's unfortunately what happened. So, like I say, it was phenomenal to be part of the games in the World Cup and finally get on the pitch. But you do wish that obviously there was a different outcome. But hopefully, I don't know whether I'll get a chance to do it again with my age, but someone else hopefully eventually will be able to in an England shirt and finally kind of release that 1966 hangover that we've had.
I think when you look at the game and you look at I suppose the moments in the game where you had to deal with intense pressure, and you go back to what you've spoken about with your distribution, and there was moments where you think there's no way out of this in terms of you're on the ball, where do I pass to, how do I get out of this press, and you had the ability to pick out a 40-50 yard pass out to our left wing. You had the ability to clip the ball into Lucy Bronze at right back. You had the ability to play some really difficult passes, and I think going back on the conversation that we've had over the last couple of hours is all of those experiences you've had along the way, going all the way back to when you was a youngster starting outfield, how that's contributed to your ability to play in that way and deliver in that way in a World Cup semi-final. I think that the link is incredible.
I'd
it's a great
agree.
message.
I'd agree. I think that it's just it's a case that it's weird because you think in playing in front of 54,000, especially when like say the Americans felt like almost they had like an extra player, like they were everywhere all over the pitch. How like sessions that you've done in the past, whether it's mannequins or other goalkeepers or players you've used when there's no one, slowly start coming into play. So it's being able to kind of tap in and be like, right, you've just got to kind of take people out of it and just kind of see like that's the area, that's the player I'm trying to hit. Like, because if you start thinking about again stuff that you can't control, or how fast Carly Lloyd is, how quick they're pressing someone else, whatever, you start adding things into your head that don't need to be there, and therefore probably executing what you need to isn't going to be effective. So it's probably being able to, and that's where like what we do is so means so much on the pitch is like, and it might seem weird when you're sometimes training and there's no one else, there's just you, your mate, and your goalkeeping coach, and they're asking you to just clip it, and then you're thinking, yeah, but there might be a player there, or that doesn't make sense, or what, because in a game that's kind of sometimes what you have to do because there's so many other factors going on. You just almost have to be able to just take it all away and be like, it's you, the ball, and your mannequins as such, but your mannequins are your teammates. So it's being able to clear your mind and being able to see those pictures and see them clearly and quickly enough to be able to execute. So that's probably something we worked a lot on in the build up to games, especially when we work on our kind of going through the in and around and to playing in and around and through and finding a way. Like ultimately, that's what we have to do as goalkeepers. We have to find a way of making saves and find a way of distributing the ball in lots of different ways, and every goalkeeper does it different, but it's how effective it can be and how quickly you can do it, which makes the next step of play more effective as such.
Absolutely, and just linking that into obviously the training sessions that we do and how we deliver it. Like, how have you found in terms of importance, in terms of being involved in the team sessions and training with the outfield players, as well as obviously just being isolated with the goalkeeping group?
Look, you know, you're probably the same as me. Like most goalkeepers, if we're told we're outfield, like it's like we have a field day. We think we're on the pitch, start doing all sorts. So it's really cool, and Phil's pretty big on getting us in the small-sided, or it's not small-sided, sorry, in the kind of rondos, and getting touches on the ball and possession, because effectively we are about to go into a game of football which is based on possession, so you are part of that. Yes, it can be dealing in bigger passes, larger passes, but ultimately it's about how quickly you can see things and, like say, deliver the ball and make your next pass effective for the next phase of play. So I think it's really important, and it varies game to game, but I think that whatever game you're going into, you're going to have the ball at your feet at some point, so it has to be introduced throughout the week at some point. Usually we do a lot of it maybe match day -1, just to get a feel for the ball, and even at club we're similar, but mainly I think that we work on stuff that's the big kind of what is going to happen in the game potentially. What are their trends? Do they take shots from distance? Do they cross the ball a lot? Is it a lot of 1v1s? What are the traits of their forwards, of their attackers, of their midfielders, so that you can get a good sense of the ball? Do they cheat? Do they gamble? Are they going to press you? Are they going to sit off you? Where are they likely to show you? And taking all those factors into consideration before, like again, it's all about preparation. If you can prepare yourself for what the opposition are going to potentially bring, you've already got a head start. You don't even need to look where your players are, because you know that they're going to leave you these areas. You know they're going to press your right side or left side, so you can move the ball out of those areas. And again, that all comes from the preparation during the week, whether that's coached directly from yourself or from the coaching staff, or whether that's you take it upon yourself, which has to be done, and go and look at the video analysis and sit down and study the players that you're going to be coming up against.
Yeah, and you've given quite a comprehensive list there of some of the things that you might look at in the game, and obviously that you come up against in the World Cup. Looking back over your international career and obviously arriving where you are today, how has it progressed or changed? Is there one or two big differences that now you think as a goalkeeper you have to be able to do and you have to be able to deal with, that perhaps back at the start it wasn't necessarily the case or wasn't as dominant?
Yeah, I'd say so. Distribution has hugely come into it. I think that's a massive for most teams. Will look at how goalkeepers, well, the teams that play Champions League, teams that are winning leagues, how their goalkeepers distribute the ball. Yes, it was a strength of mine always coming through, but I don't think it was globally. I think even the men's game, it wasn't that big, but over the past 5-10, you look at how Pick distributes the ball, Hendo distributes the ball, how those guys deal with the ball, and even kind of the Neuer, obviously he started it, and how they kind of developed into not just great shot stoppers, but how they distribute and effectively start attacks. That is now huge in the men's and women's game. And I think another one is defending the ball, defending the space. I think that there's lots of different ways to do it, and there's arguments to how it looks. I've seen Tim put a clip on. He was questioning a clip that I remember Alisson, he smothered a ball at someone's feet, and someone was like, "Oh, it was a great save," and then Tim was like, "Oh, I was just defending the space." And I was like, I love stuff like that though, because there's lots of ways of defending your goal, and it doesn't always have to be stood on your line. You don't also have to be stood like 6 yards out making saves or coming out and smothering the ball at every opportunity. I think blocking and spreading has become huge, and how you kind of effectively use your body and limbs to save the ball, because we don't just have to use our hands and feet. As we've seen in the Spain game, my face took one, but you can't. It's about making yourself as big as possible and making saves effectively. It's keeping the ball out of the net, and we found goalkeepers finding lots of different ways, and goalkeeping coaches being kind of really thinking outside the box of how can we be effective as quick as possible in and around the box, and that's using all sorts of different techniques. And I think that's where the game's changed more. It's not just about kind of maybe the Simon Smith way of hands and feet and everything goes in a nice rhythm and a nice way. It's now about effectively how can you use your body the best way to save the ball, because the game has got so much quicker. The women's game's got quicker, the men's game's got, and it's not just pretty and tidy. It's just You've seen some of the saves that the guys make and the women have made recently in games, and they're saves that maybe 10 years ago wouldn't have been made, because they're learning and being coached different ways and thinking outside the box. It's not just about catch and volley, take crosses, etc. It's the whole of the things that go around it. And I think for me, that's what's exciting. It makes goalkeeping so different, and so every day you go to work, it's so different. It's you learn so much all the time, and the game is always evolving. And you've got to keep up with it as a goalkeeper. You have to effectively find ways of keeping the strikers out. And that's what makes it fun every single day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you said obviously about every goalkeeper brings potentially something different to the in terms of their expertise and their ability to deal with a certain situation. Each of them might deal with it differently. And I think it's really important to understand that that's okay. Like, not everybody has to look the same or deal with a situation the same. And I think that's really important, obviously, for people listening, that actually we can take the best, going back to what you said around looking at the best goalkeepers and taking the best bits. I think that's a really important takeaway for people, that actually they can go, right, I like that. I like working in that way. I'm going to use a bit of that and I'm going to add it to what I can already do. But it's about being effective in a moment. So I think that's a really important message. Just before we move on to just a couple of quick fire questions, there's obviously that last picture there of you at She Believes with the Player of the Match trophy. Really important to recognise, obviously, the journey that you've been on, and then obviously we've had a bit of a difficult time in recent months coming off the back of the World Cup, and I think going into a tournament that's as intense and as high pressure as the likes of a She Believes, your ability to go again and step on the pitch and stand up and be counted, obviously was rewarded in that moment with that trophy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that as well, like going into the kind of how women's football is also changing, is that I remember the past couple of camps, obviously I haven't been playing as regular as I wished at Chelsea, but that's just the way football is. I remember going into the tournament, there was probably a lot of people asking why I'd been selected, and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like blocking that out, because it is, every time there's a squad announcement, every time you're up for scrutiny. Like, it's on TV, it's on the BBC, it's on Twitter, it's on Instagram, you name it. It's now a global entity that people want to watch. And there's also going to be people that are going to question, like everyone, because the fan bases have grown, why their players aren't on the pitch, why their players aren't in the squad. And it's just about blocking all that out. And I just really felt that I obviously would have loved to have played at Wembley, and I didn't play. And that was, again, due to probably not playing as many games at club as I wanted. And when I was given the opportunity in the She Believes, I just thought I want to show how hard I've been working in training. And ultimately your training affects what you do on the pitch. So I felt that I'd had a good tournament. Ultimately, standing there with the man of the match was bittersweet, because I'd rather been stood there with the trophy or not kind of losing that game. But that's the way football is. Sometimes you just end up being man of the match, but not winning a game. But it was on a personal note, it was really nice to win that, and to show that the hard work is being recognised, not just by kind of my teammates and my coaches who believe in me. It's also being recognised by people outside, and you kind of prove a few people wrong when they say maybe it's time to not pass the gloves on but hang the gloves up, sort of thing. So yeah, that was really interesting. It was nice. Obviously, it's a really cool tournament to be at. We have had a rough time, I guess, as a team since the World Cup. We haven't won as many as we wanted to, or whatever. But again, I feel that we're challenging ourselves against some of the top nations in the world. If we were qualifying, naturally we would be playing lesser nations and probably winning. And maybe some of the not cracks that have been exposed, but maybe the stuff that we could be better at, we wouldn't be discussing as a team either. So therefore we wouldn't have the opportunity to get better. So I think that's what's important now, is using the time that we've got to become a better team, to become better players, and then hopefully get on the right track for the Olympics and the World Cup. So in that respect, I think it's been difficult, but at the same time, I think we've learned a lot as a group, and that's part of growing.
Absolutely. Some great messages there. Okay, quick fire then. Favourite training session?
Look, anything that involves distribution I absolutely love, but I don't mind reaction stuff. I actually love reaction stuff, like loads of stuff where it's just clawing the ball out the net, like trying to move as quick as possible, and stuff like that. Like, I just love it. It's just really fun to do, especially if the weather's like, as long as the ground's not really hard. As long as there's a bit of slick on the pitch.
Sprinklers. Get the sprinklers on.
Yeah.
Superstitions, anything going into a game?
I only have one thing. So since my mum passed, I always put a bit of tape around my wrist, and I write mum on my wrist. And you've probably seen a few photos when we sing the national anthem. I always kiss it, point to the sky, and that's my only. I've never really done anything. I don't have a left foot, right foot, or gloves or anything like that. But since my mum passed, it's always my thing. Just so she's always with me. That's the only new thing I think I've gained.
Brilliant message. Favourite goalkeeper?
At the minute, it's probably Hendo. Like, the way he's this season's been fantastic, and as a female Entler, I think the Chilean goalkeeper, where she kind of conducts herself running around the net, has been real kind of revolution for women's goalkeeper.
Good. And biggest footballing influences?
My dad. Like, it has to be. Like, he was the guy that got me into football. He's the guy that drove me to and from football, and I think without him, I wouldn't be sat having this conversation. And he's also the guy that, thankfully, whether I win, lose or draw, he'll always just check if I'm all right. And that'll be it. He'll not go into any depth. He let my mum do all that kind of thing. He's like, I remember he used to pick me up from football. He used to kind of go, I'm not going to ask any questions, because I know as soon as we get in the house, your mum's going to ask them all, so I'll just listen then. And that was kind of our conversation. He's always been the same. Like, he never makes a big fuss over anything, and he always just lets me know when he's proud. So yeah, I think he has to be my biggest football influence.
It's perfect. So just leaves us to say, really, from my point of view, really appreciate you coming on and spending the time talking to us. I think your openness and your honesty around your journey and what it takes to become one of the best goalkeepers in the world is is inspiring, and it'll be inspiring to young goalkeepers looking to progress through the game, goalkeepers who are currently in the game. But also, I think in there's some really key messages for coaches, for managers, to really help them in terms of their integration of the goalkeeper in the team, and perhaps the psyche of a goalkeeper and how they work. I think really, really crucially, the biggest message that's come out in terms of you personally is your ability to be involved at the elite level for such a period of time and still be producing top levels of performance. The importance of your resilience, self-belief, and the ability to maintain a calm, composed approach to the game in whatever situation you're thrown into. So thanks from me for spending the time talking with me.